Coming up, lions and tigers and bears, oh my! The circus makes its winter home in Columbus. And then, preserving the memory of the circus daredevil who became a celebrated artist.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by American Electric Power is proud to sponsor WOSU Public Media Columbus Neighborhoods. Working together with our communities, we're committed to powering a bright, boundless future for us all.
At Ohio Health, we believe it's important to have a healthy understanding of the world around you. That's why we're proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media and their work to educate, entertain, and inspire the people we serve.
Bailey Cavalieri, your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
There was a time when nearly every kid in America dreamed of running away to join the circus. But for many years, if you lived in Columbus, you didn't have to run away. The circus was right around the corner. In fact, the house behind me belonged to one of the brothers who started the Sells Circus, which wintered right here in Columbus. Here's the story of the Sells brothers and the slice of the greatest show on earth they brought here.
The Sells story, in a way, is the story of four brothers who literally ran away and joined the circus from a small farm near what is now Dublin, Ohio.
And you sort of ask yourself, why circus? It's not like there are elephants in Dublin. But they were really entrepreneurs, and they were selling used furniture, they were selling things on the road. And if you followed a circus, you didn't have to publicize, you had a built-in clientele who were coming to look for the goods you had to sell.
By 1871, they had put together a small traveling circus which had its opening day at the corner of State and High Street in downtown Columbus.
Then in 1878, that was a big year for them. They were able to buy a lot of the equipment from a railroad circus that had gone broke, and they went on the railroad track for the first time. They were on about 32 railroad cars. What was really distinctive about them that year is they called it the Sells Brothers 7-Elephant Circus, and they had the most elephants on any circus in America. They had an auction in Columbus in February of 1888 of the surplus equipment, and the Ringling Brothers came to that, and the Ringling Brothers bought their first two elephants that they ever owned. They bought them at the auction here in Columbus. Probably one of the most glorious years the show had was in 1884. They had 50 cages. Basically, circuses were traveling zoos at that time and would always have elephants, giraffes, hippos, and many, many Americans saw their first elephant or their first exotic animal at a circus rather than a zoo.
Sellsville, directly across the Olentangy River from the campus of The Ohio State University, was the winter quarters of the Sells Brothers Circus.
That was basically from the Olentangy River on the east side to about Virginia Avenue, which is close to Kenny Road, on the west side, and then it was bordered by King Avenue and Fifth Avenue on the south and north sides of it.
The Lenox Town Center now, that was one of the agricultural areas where they raised hay and grain for the circus animals.
It is kind of an agricultural community in some ways because you've got people who need to be fed all the time. You've got animals.
Everything you can imagine in Sellsville we had. We had livery stables. We had hundreds of horses. Sundays, we would open the circus up during the winters, and you could come down and see various acts. You could see trapeze acts, you could see jugglers, you could see all kinds of acts. The place to be was in Sellsville.
I think what marks this community from all others are the tales of escaped animals. They are wonderful and legendary, and one of the people who lived in that neighborhood who would tell the story of crossing the Fifth Avenue Bridge on his motorcycle at night and meeting an elephant coming toward him and getting off the motorcycle, and he is climbing up into the bridge trusses. Other people would wake up in the morning and find that there were monkeys in their porch roof. One family found part of the porch had been ripped off by elephants in the snow.
The region was inhabited with a lot of transplanted former slaves. There were Indians that were remaining, and it gave them an opportunity to take advantage of a significant workforce that they didn't have to really pay a lot.
Sellsville was extremely integrated. We had the Polka Dot School, which was 50% white, 50% African American. We had a team called the Sellsville Sluggers, baseball team, an all African American team.
The Sells brothers saw the value of those workers to their circus, and so they actually treated them pretty well in comparison to the other circuses.
The community was interracial, very peace-loving, and very much self-contained.
Part of the Sells circus was to develop a Wild West show, and the Sells brothers really wanted authentic Indians as part of that Wild West show.
Annie Oakley was with the Sells Brothers Circus, and she was really just starting out in the show business at the time. She'd been married for about 8 years to a man named Frank Butler. When Butler had worked for the Sells Brothers in 1881, he had an act called Bauman and Butler. Supposedly he was shooting something like an apple off the head of this poor Bauman guy, and he clipped him in the head. And so he needed a new partner after that. He didn't kill him, but the guy didn't want to be in the act anymore. It's interesting, if you look at the advertising for the circus that year, they're way down the bill. This was right before she became famous. The next year, 1885, she went to work for Buffalo Bill, where she stayed until 1901, and that's where she achieved fame and fortune. The Sells brothers had a very difficult time in 1893, 4, and 5, and had gotten into some opposition with the Barnum and Bailey Circus. They played the same towns in Texas within days of each other, and the Barnum show tended to outbill them, and there's accounts of tearing the posters off the wall or whatever. So the Sells brothers were in kind of bad shape. It makes it even more poignant to find out that in late 1895, Bailey bought into the Sells brothers circus. Sells brothers combined with equipment that Bailey had from a circus called the Adam Forepaugh Circus that Bailey had purchased in 1890. Bailey revitalized the title, and they created this new circus called the Adam Forepaugh and Sells Brothers Circus. This was the real glory years for the circus. He built up the Forepaugh Sells Circus. It and Ringling Brothers were the biggest circuses in America at the time. The real high point of the Forepaugh Sells Circus was the 1902 season, and that year, James A. Bailey owned a quarter of the circus, Peter Sells owned a quarter, Lewis Sells owned a quarter, and another old showman named William W. Cole owned the last quarter of it. And in 1902, the Forepaugh Sells Circus opened in Madison Square Garden, and they just coined money all season. This is what's called a courier, and this was used on the Forepaugh Sells Circus in 1903. So they had a fella doing the loop-the-loop on a bicycle. His name was Con Baker. He was a bicycle racer, lived in the university area, and he went under the name Diavolo. He put this devil costume on that had these little horns on him. Peter Sells dies in the fall of 1904, and to settle his estate, they've got to sell the circus, and then they have a big auction here in Columbus on January 10th, 1905. They start the auction, and Bailey bids $150,000 for the whole thing. That was the end of it. Nobody would make a higher bid, and so the bidding just, opened and closed in 10 seconds. So What happens though is Bailey turns around and he sells half of it to the Ringling Brothers. Otto and Charles Ringling are here in Columbus. When the Fort Parcells Circus left Columbus in the spring of 1907, that was the end of that circus in Columbus. It never came back. The summer of 1907, and it's a nice story about Lewis Sells. The day before he died, the Buffalo Bill Wild West show was in Columbus, and he went to the show and he visited with friends and met Cody and everything, went home and died the next day. I'm sure that was, a big moment for him to get to have one last hurrah with the show business at the time.
Next, meet the daredevil who thrilled thousands with a bicycle and a paintbrush. He had an outlandish costume, an exotic name, and traveled the world thrilling crowds with death-defying stunts. And believe it or not, Con Baker's second career was nearly as unlikely. Here's the story of one of Columbus's most colorful celebrities and the efforts to preserve his legacy.
We're up against circus collectors. I do think that the bidding could be a little bit more ferocious.
Con Baker was a longtime resident of the University District. He's probably one of our greatest heroes.
He rode as a trick bicycle rider, and he rode in a costume called the Great Diablo. He rode as the devil.
He perfected the loop-de-loop riding a bicycle. He linked up with various circuses and traveled the world and then spent the rest of his life painting.
All of this stuff was in the cabin. The cabin was eventually sold to a private owner, but the family took many of the collections and pieces, and that seems to be what's on auction right now. We feel it's significant just because it's a story in Columbus that a number of people know about, but very few people have ever seen anything tangible from it. Yes or no? I'm ambivalent. So.
To me, it's a no.
Yeah, fine.
We've gathered together at a very early morning, the day of the auction, to actually look through all of the lots that are coming up to make sure that we're not accidentally outbidding each other. So we've called those people who we think we're bidding. Some of them we're just going to be purchasing probably for the very reason we are, to save something. You have this one on your list, Angela, which would be 3165. We invited the library to come down so we could actually look through everything together and had time to talk about it.
Our goal at Columbus Metropolitan Library in the Local History and Genealogy Division is to collect and preserve materials relating to Columbus and Central Ohio history. So when we heard about the Con Baker auction, we were really interested in making sure that at least some of these materials were able to stay accessible to the public, so they didn't fall in private hands and be unavailable for future researchers and historians.
I think we can figure out your stuff easiest, right?
Probably. When we have collections like this come up of this significance and this size, we often will get together and talk through what organization is the most appropriate for the material to go to. So at the library, for example, we focus on two-dimensional materials, documents, photographs. Any three-dimensional material is outside our scope, but we know that the folks at the Ohio History Connection, for example, have the resources and the expertise to care for those kinds of collections.
This is the one where they lent the horns for a costume party and they never got them back. But the costume is high on our list.
It'd be nice to keep kind of the physical items together, so like the bike,
Absolutely.
the costume, his trunks, kind of like a complete exhibit.
3162 is what we want to try, the Grand Circus poster. We've had a number of developers in the area step up, private citizens who within 48 hours put in money. So I think it shows that push or shove, we may be in a highly interesting times with development and a lot of our history seems to be sort of eroding, but progress goes on, but people still care about history.
After looking at that inventory list, any expectation we had was exceeded by the magnitude of this collection. Imagine walking into a room and just being overwhelmed with painting after painting that you had seen maybe one example of, and now here is his entire collection. It was just mind-boggling.
Did he take a spill or did he take a shot to the heart?
What became apparent was that there would, in certain cases, probably be a bidding war.
Well, I go into the auction hall and I think, oh my goodness, there's an awful lot of material here. And in one room, there were about maybe 15 or 20 boxes that were full of letters. And I tried to go through those, and I would look, and there would be things like his electric bill and his gas bill. And he was a fellow that didn't throw anything away. But then I'd find a letter from like Arthur Prescott to him, and I think, oh my goodness, this is a big deal. I think, well, I got to buy this just for that.
Hopefully you have done your homework, looked at it, lots of cool. I will be sad to see it go. I saw the movie The Greatest Showman. That's the story of P.T. Barnum, and I just kept thinking about Con and what a crazy thing to do at that time. 3155. This all has to do with the Loop and Diavolo. 130, 140, 150, and 60 and 70. 180, 190, and 2, and 25, and 50, and 75. 500 bid go 550. Want back in at 550. Sold 500, 129.
400, 425, 425. Sold 400 to 129.
250 I need. Don't lose it for that. Sold 225, 129.
The first three items we lost to a circus collector. And I remember looking over at Matt, and both of us were a little dismayed.
Sold 300, 129. A big circus mural. 275 and 300 and 300 down. 3 do you want back in at 3 and 300 where? 270.
Finally, we won an item.
Sold 136.
We felt after that everything was going to work out.
Sold 650, 136.
Sold 136.
This is the coolest thing of all. J.C. Carter Diavolo costume with the accompanying photos. You'll never find this again. 400, 425, 450, 500, 550, 600, 600 where?
We were kind of up against a formidable opponent on some of the items.
1050, 11, 1150, 12.
The hot item during the auction was definitely the Diavolo costume.
18, 19, 2020.
I was holding out on a couple other items for this big purchase.
23, your turn again. 2300, 24, 25.
That one did escape us.
Sold 2400 to 129.
But I think we ended up getting some unique things, including Mr. Baker's bicycle. We got a trunk that Mr. Baker traveled with, and it has stickers from all over the world. We got the drawings for the Loop, which I think is one of the more unique items.
I'm afraid to touch anything.
We were so excited about the extent of what we had acquired in the collection that we decided to have a viewing party. And we invited members of the community, Columbus Public Library, our donors, and also a circus collector by the name of Fred Fenning.
Should you ever want to part with that one, we would, God love it.
I might.
Seriously?
Yeah. One of the things that I've gotten from this collection is it feel like I've gotten to know Con Baker. I'm hopeful that in the next few years I'm going to write an article about this. I've got a lot of research to do.
We're always interested in having family members talk to us before materials go to auction so that we can have some of those conversations and at least get a digital image.
We're excited about this collection, and we're also excited about the potential of having an exhibit.
My hope for this material is that it will be able to stay together and to be available for other researchers down the line.
If the circus is the greatest show in town, then Fred Fenning must be the greatest show's greatest fan. Inspired by his lifelong love of the big top, this Columbus businessman has collected all kinds of circus memorabilia. He has been able to obtain many items connected to Con Baker. Let's take a look.
Con had two skills. One was painting and the other was riding a bicycle. And the evidence that I've examined indicates really kind of in a negative way that he had no business sense, and you get this sense the guy was kind of a dreamer. And he read about this Loop the Loop act that had been on a circus in 1902 that actually was out of here in Columbus named the Four Paw Cells Circus. And he wrote the man that developed the act, who was named Arthur Prescott, about getting a job with it. And Prescott had developed this in the early fall of 1901 and had actually opened a school for Loop the Loop riders. And they were all called Diavolo, which of course is Italian for devil. And they would all wear this same kind of suit with these little devil horns on them. Well, when he started this, there were a number of accidents, and the first two guys that did it got injured so severely that they never came back to it. But the third guy that they had, whose name was Robert Vandervoort, was able to do it successfully and got the job with the Four Paw Cells Circus. Baker kind of hemmed and hawed about going, but finally about November, he goes to Fairview, New Jersey, where Prescott had set up a school for Diavolos, and there were about 10 people there. Baker trained there, and the first time he did it, he broke his wrist and a couple of ribs, but he really persisted and seemed to really want to do this, and eventually was able to get it. The thing that's always interesting to me about this is that all of these guys had to do it a first time. This shows him on the Ferrari Brothers Carnival in 1903 or 1904. And if you think about this, I mean, it really is scary, and it really was a very, very dangerous act. And you're going down about a 60, 80-foot incline, and you're going through a loop that the apex of which is about 25 feet high in the air. And you're going as much as perhaps 60 miles an hour going down the incline, and then you're doing about 35 when you're at the top of the loop. And you can see how it starts out that the loop, the device, gets wider as it goes around and then is very wide when it's in the loop portion of it. What the rider in a Loop the Loop act had to do, there was a black line, and the rider would just keep his head down and just look at that line and just trust the process. Here's one of him in his devil outfit that was taken when he was on the Frank Phillis Circus in 1905 in South Africa, and you can see he just radiates confidence in that photograph. Here's another picture of it that was taken on the Ferrari show, and you can see on the right the bicycle. It didn't have pedals, it just had slots for him to put his feet into. And here's another nice photograph of him inside Frank Phillis's tent in 1905. The Loop acts were very much copied, and there were just slight variations that were done to it to get around the patents that Prescott held. This one, for example, shows a dog running the Loop. And this photograph is the Loop at Coney Island that Prescott worked on, that was the inspiration for the bicycle Loop. The letters that were from and to him were by far the most important and interesting thing to me. Today I found a postcard from Robert Vandervoort, who was the man that was the rider on Four Paw Cells in 1902. And then he writes Baker in September of '03, and he says, "Glad to hear you're making good rides. Look out for heavy dews and frost on loop." And so there's a lot of technical pointers that these guys would share with each other. What I learned about Con Baker, the person, from this is that he was a very articulate, intelligent man who wrote well. He was a positive person. You don't see a lot of beefing, but he would also stand up for himself. He was involved in starting a union of Loop riders, a pretty small union. There were like 9 people in it. He seems to have been a quiet guy, as much as you can determine that somebody was a quiet guy from reading his letters. In interviews that he gave, there's not any bombast to it, and he really plays it down. I mean, he understood that he was good at what he was doing, and he also knew that he had a great advantage from having the experience with bicycle racing before then.
He's a local hero, there's no question about it. He's a guy that made fame in this country on bicycles and then on the Loop, and then he traveled the world. He is unquestionably one of the bigger personalities and more exciting people that ever came out of this town.
Thanks for being with us, and remember you can catch all our episodes on columbusneighborhoods.org, plus see our stories on the WOSU mobile app. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by American Electric Power is proud to sponsor WOSU Public Media Columbus Neighborhoods. Working together with our communities, we're committed to powering a bright, boundless future for us all.
At Ohio Health, we believe it's important to have a healthy understanding of the world around you. That's why we're proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media and their work to educate, entertain, and inspire the people we serve.
Bailey Cavalieri, your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. And by viewers like you. Thank you.